Sofia Elena Garcia gasped for air in a Miami hospital room, machines beeping frantically around her 26-year-old body. Her boyfriend stood over her, live streaming to thousands of fans. "Everybody pray for Lena, pray." But Sofia Elena Garcia, known to the world as Allure, was already slipping away from a cocktail of substances that would steal her final breath within hours. Just 2 years earlier, this same woman was serving waffles at Waffle House, dreaming of stardom. Now she had millions of streams, collaborations with Rick Ross, and a fan base that hung on her every word. She'd made it. She was living the dream every small-town girl fantasizes about. But success came with a price tag nobody warned her about. The pills started as a way to cope. The pressure, the fame, the toxic relationships that claimed to build her up while tearing her down. Her manager, who was also her boyfriend, had molded her into a star. Or so he claimed. "If I didn't exist, she wouldn't exist," he'd later say. But was he her savior or the architect of her destruction? Before we dive in, comment where you are watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more true crime stories. Those final 4 days, she tried desperately to get clean, hiding away from the substances that had become her escape, fighting withdrawal symptoms that felt like hell. Her management team watched helplessly as the young woman they'd guided to fame battled the demons that fame had created. But here's what nobody talks about. Was this really just an accidental overdose? Or did the people closest to her fail when she needed them most? The answers will shock you. October 9, 1997. While most babies take their first breath in familiar hometown hospitals, Sofia Elena Garcia entered the world in Aviano, Italy. Her father's military service had stationed the family overseas, but this was just the beginning of a childhood defined by constant movement. From Italy to Florida, then finally settling in Miami, Florida. Young Sofia learned early how to adapt, how to reinvent herself with each new zip code. Miami wasn't just another stop, it became her anchor. The sprawling Florida city with its blend of coastal vibes and urban energy matched her own complex personality. Here she'd find her voice, literally and figuratively. But first she had to survive the mundane reality of post-graduation life. The Waffle House on that busy Miami street corner became Sofia's first real stage. While other servers rushed through their shifts, counting tips and watching the clock, she transformed every table into a performance. Customers remembered her laugh, her quick wit, the way she could make a terrible day feel lighter. Co-workers watched her command attention effortlessly. She had that rare quality that made people want to be around her. The restaurant uniform felt like a costume she couldn't wait to shed. Music wasn't just a hobby. It was her escape route from a life that felt too small for her oversized dreams. Then came that pivotal summer after high school graduation. Most teenagers spend their post-graduation months lounging by pools or taking family vacations. Sofia had different plans. Armed with studio time and a substance that promised to unlock creative barriers, she made a decision that would change everything. "I did my mixtape in one day." Crazy story. "I did ecstasy for the first time and made a mixtape in one session." A whole mixtape. Her own words capture the raw spontaneity of that moment. 12 hours of pure unfiltered creativity. No second guessing, no perfectionist editing, just Sofia at a microphone and whatever came pouring out of her heart. That project, rough around the edges and brutally honest, became her calling card. The Miami music scene took notice. Here was someone who wasn't trying to sound like everyone else. Her trap and blues style blended church choir harmonies with street credibility, gospel-trained vocals with lyrics that spoke to her generation's struggles. The contradiction fascinated people. Sunday mornings found her leading church songs with the voice of an angel. Weekend nights she was crafting bars about relationships, heartbreak, and survival. Her social media reflected this duality. One day posting inspirational quotes, the next sharing her famous relationship rules that had followers screenshotting and sharing. "Never let a man touch that phone." "Run for dear life" became one of her most quoted pieces of advice. She wasn't just making music, she was building a brand based on authentic female empowerment mixed with street-smart wisdom. Her followers didn't just hear her music, they felt like they knew her personally. This raw honesty would become both her greatest asset and ultimately part of her undoing, because the same transparency that made her relatable would later expose every struggle, every moment of weakness, every cry for help. Recording your entire career-defining moment while under the influence takes either incredible courage or reckless abandon. It started with a scroll through Facebook. Derek was browsing social media in Miami when he stumbled across Sofia's profile. She was known locally as just another pretty face posting selfies and short video clips. Her music barely getting noticed. 25 plays on SoundCloud. That's it. Most people would have kept scrolling. Derek stopped. He reached out, asked her to send him a song. The raw talent was there, buried under amateur production and lack of direction. He told her to come to the studio. That meeting changed everything. Derek didn't just see potential. He saw a blank canvas he could completely reshape, and that's exactly what he did. Within months, he had taken control of every aspect of Sofia's career. He wasn't just managing her, he was reinventing her from the ground up. He wrote her songs, he recorded them, he mixed them, he marketed them, he created the content that would attract followers on Instagram. Every strategic move, every post, every collaboration, Derek's fingerprints were on all of it. When interviewers asked what role Sophia played in her own success, Derek's answer was brutal. The face and the voice. That's all she played, was the face and the voice. He compared himself to a record label, doing everything solo. "I had 10 jobs in one," he said, describing his role in crafting her image and sound. But somewhere between late-night studio sessions and strategy meetings, the professional relationship crossed into personal territory. Derek became more than her manager. He became her boyfriend. The power dynamic was already uneven, but now it was complicated by romance. Their social media told a love story, cute couple posts, declarations of affection, behind-the-scenes glimpses of their relationship. Derek frequently posted videos of them together, showing a side of Sophia that fans rarely saw, softer, more vulnerable, completely dependent on him. The control extended beyond music. Derek shaped her public persona, decided what image she would project, and determined how she would interact with fans. He posted the provocative content that built her Instagram following. He crafted the narrative that would make people fall in love with Allure. Every aspect of her career flowed through him. What looked like mentorship from the outside felt different on the inside. Derek handled everything an artist should do for themselves, as he put it. But at what cost? When someone controls your career, your image, your content, and your income, and they're also your romantic partner, where does guidance end and manipulation begin? But here's where things get complicated. Derek's version of their relationship doesn't match what happened behind closed doors. And the truth, it's about to get much more twisted. By 2020, Sofia Elena Garcia wasn't just another aspiring artist from Miami anymore. Rick Ross had seen something special in her raw talent and street authenticity. When Maybach Music offered her a contract, it felt like validation of everything she'd worked towards since those early days recording in makeshift studios. The signing changed everything overnight. Suddenly, the girl who used to serve waffles at Waffle House was collaborating with established artists like Lil Durk and Megan Thee Stallion. Her track Sprint Queen exploded across social media platforms, racking up millions of views and cementing her place in the competitive world of Southern rap. Fans couldn't get enough of her unique blend of vulnerability and street credibility, but it was Allure's personality that truly set her apart from other female rappers. She didn't just make music, she created a brand around being unapologetically herself. Her social media became a masterclass in confidence and humor. She'd drop relationship wisdom that had women across the country taking notes. Never let a man touch that phone. Run for dear life. Rule number 2, remember you choose a trick. Don't let the trick choose you. These weren't just catchy sound bites. They were life lessons wrapped in entertainment, delivered with the kind of authenticity that made her relatable to women juggling their own relationship drama. Her Fashion Nova partnerships showcased her style evolution, encouraging fans to shop the look while building her influence beyond music. The money started flowing. Brand deals, streaming royalties, sold-out performances. At 26, Sophia had achieved what most artists only dream about. She was living proof that a small-town Florida girl with big dreams could make it in the industry. Yet fame came with a price tag nobody prepared her for. The constant pressure to maintain her image became exhausting. Every social media post was scrutinized. Industry executives expected her to churn out hit after hit while maintaining the perfect balance of street credibility and mainstream appeal. The demands never stopped. Photo shoots, studio sessions, interviews, appearances. Sleep became a luxury. Privacy disappeared entirely. The same personality that made her famous now felt like a performance she couldn't turn off. Fans expected the confident, funny Allure 24/7. But behind closed doors, the real Sophia was struggling to keep up with her own success. That's when the pills entered her life. At first, it was just something to help her sleep after long studio sessions. Then it became something to calm her nerves before performances. The prescription bottles multiplied. Opioids for pain, benzodiazepines for anxiety. Each pill promised relief from the mounting pressures of her expanding career. What started as occasional use became a daily necessity. The same substances that initially helped her cope were now controlling her life. Friends and family began noticing changes. The quick wit remained, but there were moments when her eyes seemed distant, her speech slightly slowed. In 2023, during what would become a haunting interview, Allure spoke directly about the dangers she was flirting with. You could take one pill and literally die immediately. The words carried weight, delivered by someone who understood the risk intimately. It was both a warning to her fans and a confession of her own vulnerability. But knowing the danger and stopping the behavior proved to be two entirely different challenges. The pills had become her coping mechanism for an industry that demanded everything while giving little support for the mental and emotional toll of fame. You're 26 years old. You've achieved dreams that seemed impossible just a few years earlier. Millions of people know your name, respect your talent, and look up to you for guidance. Yet, you're slowly destroying yourself with substances just to handle the weight of your own success. The very fame you worked so hard to achieve has become the thing you need to escape from. How does someone with so much to live for end up in such a dangerous place? The answer would become clearer in the months leading up to that tragic night in Miami, when the pills that once provided relief would ultimately steal everything away. Success came with a price, Allure never anticipated. When she outgrew Derek's management and signed with Maybach Music, the man who claimed to have created her couldn't accept being left behind. In interviews that followed their split, his bitterness was impossible to hide. "She wouldn't exist if I didn't exist," he told podcasters, his voice heavy with resentment. "I took a face, a voice, and built everything people fell in love with. The music, the image, the content on Instagram, that was all me." His words cut through any pretense of professional courtesy. This wasn't a manager discussing a former client. This was a man scorned, watching his creation achieve heights he felt belonged to him. Derek's interviews revealed the extent of his control during their relationship. He claimed responsibility for writing her songs, mixing her tracks, and crafting her entire public persona. "There's a difference between good songs and great songs," he insisted, suggesting that without his influence, Allure was merely average. The subtext was clear. Her success was borrowed, not earned. But Derek's version of events ignored a crucial truth. Allure had grown beyond his influence, and that growth terrified him. She was no longer the young woman with 25 plays on SoundCloud who needed his guidance. She was a rising star making her own decisions, and those decisions no longer included him. Enter Flowgod Zane, her new romantic interest, who would become her final boyfriend. Unlike Derek's calculated approach to their relationship, Zane seemed genuinely devoted to Allure as a person, not as a career opportunity. Their social media interactions showed genuine affection, late-night studio sessions, and quiet moments that felt authentic rather than performative. Yet, even with someone who truly cared for her, Allure's relationship with substances continued to worsen. The pills that had started as occasional escapes became daily necessities. Oxycodone numbed the industry pressure, while benzodiazepines quieted the anxiety that fame had amplified. Her romantic connections, no matter how genuine, couldn't compete with the chemical relief these drugs provided. Friends watched helplessly as she cycled through periods of sobriety and relapse. She would disappear for days, then resurface, claiming she was getting clean, only to fall back into the same patterns weeks later. The people who loved her found themselves walking on eggshells, afraid that pushing too hard would drive her away entirely. Her management team tried intervention after intervention. They connected her with counselors, arranged for medical support, and created safe spaces for recovery. Each attempt seemed promising initially. Allure would express genuine desire to change, would acknowledge the toll the drugs were taking on her body and career. But withdrawal was brutal, and the comfort of chemical relief always seemed easier than facing her demons sober. The final attempt came in June 20. Recognizing that her usual environment was filled with triggers, Allure moved in with members of her management team. For 4 days she committed to getting clean. The withdrawal symptoms were severe: nausea, tremors, insomnia, and crushing anxiety that made every minute feel like an hour. Her manager later described those days with heartbreaking honesty. "She tried her best, and I did everything I could to help her. She really tried." Those 4 days represented hope. Hope that this time would be different, that she had finally found the strength to break free from the cycle that had trapped her. But addiction is a cunning opponent. It waits for moments of weakness, exploits pain, and makes promises it never keeps. Despite everyone's best efforts, despite genuine love and professional support, despite her own desperate desire to survive, the drugs won. The pattern was always the same. People entered Allure's life claiming they could save her, only to discover that salvation wasn't something they could provide. Derek thought control was the answer. Zane believed love would be enough. Her management team hoped professional intervention could break through. Each person who cared about her faced the same devastating reality. Wanting to help someone isn't the same as being able to help them. June 10th, 2024. Started like any other day in Miami, Florida. Sophia was staying at her friend's house, still fighting through the withdrawal symptoms that had been tormenting her for days. Her management team had hoped this would be the breakthrough moment, the time she finally overcame her addiction and reclaimed her life. But at 11:47 a.m., everything changed. Sophia collapsed in the living room. Her heart, weakened by years of substance abuse and the stress of withdrawal, began to fail. The combination of oxycodone and benzodiazepines still coursing through her system created a perfect storm that her 26-year-old body couldn't handle. Her friend immediately called 911. The dispatcher's voice remained calm, but urgency filled the air as paramedics raced through Miami traffic toward what would become one of the most heartbreaking scenes in recent music history. By 12:15 p.m., the ambulance arrived at Jackson Memorial Hospital. Emergency room doctors worked frantically to stabilize her vitals. Her heart had stopped twice during the ambulance ride. The medical team knew they were fighting against time and chemistry, a deadly combination that had already gained too much ground. Flowgod Zane received the call at 12:30 p.m. His girlfriend, the woman he'd been trying to help get clean, was now fighting for her life in a Miami hospital. He rushed to Jackson Memorial, his mind racing with questions and fear. The first social media post came at 1:45 p.m. Zayn posted a simple message: "Pray for my baby. She needs all the prayers right now." Within minutes, thousands of fans began sharing the post, not fully understanding the gravity of what was happening. By 3 p.m. Sophia was placed on life support. The cardiac arrest had caused significant brain damage. Doctors explained to her family that her body was barely functioning on its own. The machines were keeping her alive, but her brain showed minimal activity. Her family began arriving throughout the afternoon. Her mother, who had watched her daughter battle addiction for years, stood beside the hospital bed with tears streaming down her face. Her siblings gathered, each hoping for a miracle that medical science couldn't promise. At 6:30 p.m. Zayn posted again, "If everybody could pray for Lena, pray." The raw desperation in those 8 words reached across social media platforms. Fans who had watched Sophia's journey from Waffle House waitress to rap sensation suddenly realized their favorite artist might not survive the night. The hospital room became a vigil. Family members took turns holding her hand, whispering words of love and encouragement. The steady beep of life support machines provided the only rhythm to their prayers. Throughout the night, doctors ran test after test. Each result brought more devastating news. The overdose had caused irreversible damage to her brain and organs. Her kidneys were failing, her liver was shutting down. The cocktail of drugs that she'd consumed to escape her pain had systematically destroyed the body that once commanded stages and recording studios. At 11 p.m. on June 10th, rumors began spreading online that Sophia had died. Zayn quickly posted a correction: "She's still fighting, y'all. Don't believe everything you read. Keep praying." But privately, he knew the medical team had given them little hope. The night stretched endlessly. Family members dozed in uncomfortable hospital chairs. Each hour brought the same question: would this be the moment they'd have to say goodbye? At 6 a.m. on June 11th, the doctor delivered the final verdict. Sophia's brain activity had ceased completely. The machines were the only thing preventing her body from shutting down entirely. The family faced an impossible decision, one that no parent, sibling, or loved one should ever have to make. They spent the morning sharing final words, final touches, final moments with the young woman who had brought so much joy and music into their lives. Each family member said their private goodbyes, knowing that once they gave permission to remove life support, Sophia would be gone forever. At 2:20 p.m. on June 11th, 2024, the life support machines were turned off. Sofia Elena Garcia drew her final breath at exactly 2:26 p.m., surrounded by the people who loved her most. Zayn's final post came hours later: "You finally found that peace that you was looking for. Y'all hurt me bad." 7 words that captured the exhaustion, love, and heartbreak of watching someone you care about lose their battle with addiction. The Miami music scene had lost one of its brightest stars. The hip-hop community had lost a rising talent. But most importantly, a family had lost their daughter, their sister, their light. The Miami-Dade County Medical Examiner's Office received Allure's body on June 11th, but her family and the world would have to wait 2 agonizing months for answers. In cases involving suspected overdoses, toxicology testing takes time. Each tissue sample must be analyzed, each chemical compound identified, each level measured with precision. For Sophia's loved ones, those 8 weeks felt endless. Dr. Jeffrey Barnard, the chief medical examiner, had seen thousands of overdose cases cross his desk, but when the results came back on August 23, 2024, they told a story that was both tragically common and uniquely devastating. The toxicology report revealed a lethal cocktail. Oxycodone and benzodiazepines had flooded Sophia's system. Oxycodone, a synthetic opioid prescribed for severe pain, had reached levels in her bloodstream that would slow her breathing to a crawl. But it wasn't working alone. Benzodiazepines, typically prescribed for anxiety and insomnia, amplified the opioid's effects. Together, these 2 classes of drugs created what medical professionals call a perfect storm for respiratory depression. Here's what many people don't understand about accidental overdoses. It's not always about taking too much of one substance. Sometimes it's about combinations. Sophia might have taken her usual amount of each medication, not realizing that together they would overwhelm her central nervous system. Her heart, already weakened from previous substance use, couldn't handle the chemical assault. The medical examiner's report was clinical but devastating. Cause of death: acute intoxication due to combined effects of oxycodone and benzodiazepines. Manner of death: accident. Those few typed lines represented the end of a 26-year-old life that had barely begun to reach its potential. A detective from the Miami Police Department had been assigned to review the case, standard procedure for any death involving controlled substances. The detective examined Sophia's final days, interviewed friends and family members, and analyzed her recent text messages and social media activity. The investigation revealed something heartbreaking. Sophia had been clean for 3 days before her relapse. 3 days of sweating through withdrawal, of feeling her body rebel against sobriety, of fighting every instinct that screamed for relief. On that 4th day, the pain became too much. She reached for what she thought would be a small amount, just enough to ease the suffering. But addiction doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about good intentions or recovery plans. Those two types of pills, consumed together during a moment of weakness, created a chemical reaction her body couldn't survive. The Miami-Dade County District Attorney's Office reviewed the case files and made their determination swiftly. No criminal charges would be filed. This wasn't a murder investigation or a case of criminal negligence. It was a tragedy born from the disease of addiction. Sophia's family released a statement accepting the medical examiner's findings. "We know our daughter was fighting a battle that millions of Americans face every day," her mother wrote. "While we'll never stop wishing we could have done more, we understand that addiction is an illness, not a choice." The case was officially closed on September 15, 2024. File number 2024-7892 was archived in Miami-Dade County records, joining thousands of other lives lost to the opioid crisis. But for those who knew and loved Sofia Elena Garcia, the questions weren't so easily filed away. Could better medical supervision during her detox attempt have prevented this tragedy? Should someone experiencing withdrawal have been left in the care of friends rather than medical professionals? And perhaps most painfully, if the people around her had recognized the severity of her condition, would she still be alive today? The legal system had its answers, but the human heart rarely finds such easy closure. The news of Allure's death hit the music world like a shockwave on that Tuesday morning in June. Within hours of the announcement, social media platforms flooded with tributes from artists, fans, and industry figures who had watched her meteoric rise from Miami waitress to nationally recognized talent. Rick Ross, who had signed her to his Maybach music label, posted a heartfelt tribute on Instagram that captured the raw emotion of losing someone he considered family. "She was a true star," he wrote, accompanied by photos of their studio sessions and performances. "This hurts differently. Allure brought laughter and light to everyone around her. The Maybach family will never be the same." His post garnered over 2 million likes and thousands of comments from fellow artists expressing their shock and condolences. Lil Durk, who had collaborated with Allure on several tracks, shared his own tribute. "She was always laughing, always positive, always pushing us to be better. This one hits hard because she was just getting started." Megan Thee Stallion, another frequent collaborator, posted a video of them in the studio together, writing, "Your voice will live forever through the music we made. Rest easy, Queen." The outpouring wasn't limited to major artists. Dozens of up-and-coming rappers, producers, and industry professionals shared their own memories of working with Allure, painting a picture of someone who lifted others even while battling her own demons. Meanwhile, in Miami, her hometown community struggled to process the loss of their rising star. Local radio stations played her music continuously throughout the week, with DJs sharing stories of her early performances at small venues across the city. The Miami music scene, already tight-knit, felt the absence immediately. Several local artists postponed upcoming shows, saying they needed time to grieve for someone who had become an inspiration for so many young performers in the area. Allure's family, still reeling from their loss, released a statement through their attorney that revealed the depth of their pain. "Sofia was our ball of light. She brought joy, laughter, and love to everyone she encountered. She lived her life with grace and blessed so many with friendship and kindness. We ask for privacy as we navigate this incredibly difficult time and celebrate the beautiful life she lived." The family's request for privacy didn't stop fans from organizing their own tributes. Across Miami, groups gathered for balloon releases in pink and red colors that represented Allure's vibrant personality and fashion choices. Videos of these memorial gatherings spread across TikTok and Instagram, with fans sharing their favorite lyrics and memories of how her music had impacted their lives. Her streaming numbers told their own story of impact. In the week following her death, her music experienced a 400% increase in plays across all platforms. Sprint Queen, her biggest hit, climbed streaming charts as both longtime fans and newcomers discovered her catalog. Her Spotify monthly listeners jumped from 800,000 to over 3.2 million within 2 weeks. But beyond the numbers and tributes, Allure's death forced uncomfortable conversations throughout the music industry. Record labels began quietly reviewing their artist support programs, with several major companies announcing expanded mental health resources and addiction counseling services. Music industry publications ran lengthy features examining the pressures young artists face, particularly women in hip-hop who often deal with additional scrutiny and expectations. Industry veterans started speaking openly about the need for better support systems. Music executive Karen Civil tweeted, "We celebrate their art but fail them as humans. Every label should have mandatory wellness programs. This has to stop." The sentiment was echoed by dozens of other influential figures who had remained silent about addiction issues in the past. Treatment centers specializing in helping entertainers reported increased inquiries from managers, family members, and artists themselves seeking help. The conversation had shifted from treating addiction as a personal failing to recognizing it as a health crisis requiring professional intervention and industry-wide change. So, here we are at the end of Sofia's story, and I can't stop thinking about the what-ifs that keep me awake at night. Could comprehensive support systems have changed her outcome? When you look at Derek's role in shaping every aspect of her career, from her sound to her social media presence, you have to wonder if that level of control created dependency instead of empowerment.
What Sophia's story teaches us extends far beyond the music world. Addiction doesn't discriminate. It targets the vulnerable, the overwhelmed, the isolated.